The Endeavour glided through the inky blackness of space, its sleek hull reflecting the distant starlight as it approached the enigmatic planet, Zelaya Prime. For Captain Julian Masters, this was the culmination of years of preparation, countless simulations, and the collective hopes of humanity. The first manned mission to another star system. The stakes could not have been higher. Approaching orbit, Lieutenant Elena Vega announced, her fingers deftly gliding across the control panels. The bridge was abuzz with activity, the crew meticulously monitoring every system to ensure a flawless descent. "Steady as she goes, Lieutenant," Julian responded, his voice calm yet tinged with excitement. His gaze was fixed on the planet displayed on the large view screen. Zelaya Prime was unlike any world they had encountered. A vibrant blue-green orb with vast continents blanketed by lush alien forests and oceans shimmering like liquid sapphire. Strange cloud formations swirled across the atmosphere, glowing with an ethereal light. "Captain, we're detecting numerous life forms on the surface," said Dr. Evelyn Grace, the ship's chief scientist, her voice brimming with awe as she examined the readings. "The biodiversity here is extraordinary, unlike anything on Earth. This planet teems with life." Julian nodded, absorbing the gravity of the moment. "All right, everyone, let's make history. Prepare for landing." The Endeavour descended through the atmosphere, buffeted by winds carrying the scent of unfamiliar flora. As the ship touched down on a broad grassy plain near a crystalline lake, the crew marveled at their surroundings. The sky was a deep cerulean blue, with two suns casting a warm golden light over the landscape. Towering, luminescent trees glowed softly in the twilight. Julian and his team exited the ship, their boots sinking slightly into the moss-covered ground. The air was filled with the hum of alien insects and the distant calls of unseen creatures. It was a world of wonder, yet eerily silent, as though the planet itself held its breath in anticipation. "Stay alert, everyone," Julian cautioned. "We don't know what's out there." As they ventured further from the ship, the crew entered a clearing surrounded by flowers that seemed to pulse with light, shifting colors with each passing second. Suddenly, the ground beneath their feet trembled and a low, melodious hum filled the air. "Captain, look!" shouted Lieutenant Vega, pointing toward the edge of the clearing. From the dense forest emerged figures, tall, graceful beings with iridescent skin that shimmered like opals. Their large, luminous eyes seemed to hold the mysteries of the cosmos, and their movements were fluid, as if gliding rather than walking. They wore simple, flowing garments, appearing to be woven from light itself. The crew instinctively raised their weapons, but Julian quickly signaled them to lower them. "No sudden moves," he ordered, stepping forward cautiously. "We come in peace." The lead figure, a female exuding an aura of calm and wisdom, approached Julian. When she spoke, her voice was a harmonious blend of sounds that resonated within his mind, though she spoke in an alien tongue. "Do you understand us?" Julian asked, his voice steady despite his rapidly beating heart. The alien woman tilted her head, locking eyes with Julian. A wave of warmth washed over him as her thoughts touched his, bridging the gap between their species. "Yes, we understand you," she replied, her voice now clear in his mind. "I am Ishara, a seer of my people. We have been expecting you." Julian was taken aback. "You knew we were coming?" "Yes," Ishara confirmed, her tone gentle. "We have observed your kind from afar, curious about your journey through the stars. You are the first to reach our world." The other Zeans, as Julian would later learn they were called, gathered around, their gazes filled with curiosity and a subtle anticipation. They communicated with each other through a seamless blend of melodic sounds and telepathic impressions, a fascinating yet unsettling combination. Ishara stepped closer, her gaze never wavering from Julian's. "You are different from the others," she said, her eyes narrowing slightly as if she were peering into his very soul. "There is something within you, a power that is unique among your kind." Julian felt a strange sensation at her words, like a soft pulse of energy within him. "I'm just a man," he replied cautiously, unsure of what she sensed. "Nothing more," Ishara's lips curved into a small, enigmatic smile. We shall see. The days on Zelaya Prime stretched into what felt like eternities under the planet's dual suns. Julian and his crew settled into a routine, their initial awe giving way to the realities of exploration. The Zeans were hospitable, guiding the humans through their world, sharing their knowledge and customs. Yet, there was always an undercurrent of something deeper, an unspoken connection between Julian and Ishara that lingered. Ishara visited Julian daily, her presence both comforting and unsettling. Her curiosity about humanity, particularly Julian, never waned. She asked probing questions about what it meant to be human, to love, to feel joy and pain. Beneath it all, her persistent interest in what she called the energy within him never faltered. As Julian gazed at the crystalline lake one evening, his thoughts drifted to the mysterious bond forming between them. He couldn't shake the feeling that his life had just veered into the unknown, and deep down he wondered if he was ready for what that connection might reveal. The events of the past few days had been overwhelming. Julian had learned so much about the Zeans, their culture, their abilities, and their connection to the planet. But he still couldn't understand Ishara's deep fascination with him. It wasn't just curiosity. It felt like she was searching for something within him, something he didn't fully understand himself. Your thoughts are troubled. Ishara's soft, melodic voice broke through his thoughts. She appeared beside him, her iridescent skin glowing softly in the fading light. Julian looked up at her and gave a tired smile. There's just so much to take in. Your world, your people. It's incredible, but it's a lot to process, he admitted. Ishara sat beside him, her presence calming. I understand. Your journey has brought you far from home, into a world that is strange and unfamiliar. But I sense it's not just our world that troubles you. There is something within you that you're afraid to face. Julian frowned, unsure of what she meant. I'm not sure I follow. Ishara gently placed her hand on his chest, just above his heart. Warmth spread from her touch, radiating through his body. There is energy inside you, Julian. It is strong but locked away. Your people, humans, seem to fear this energy. You hide it, control it, rather than embracing it. Julian felt a pulse of something, a slight electric sensation, as if Ishara's touch was unlocking something deep within him, something he hadn't even known was there. What do you mean by energy? Are you talking about emotions or something else? Ishara's eyes gleamed with understanding. Emotions are part of it, but it's more than that. It's your life force, your essence. In our culture, we don't separate our physical bodies from our energy. They are one and the same. We allow our energy to flow freely, to connect with others, to heal, to create. But you keep yours contained. Julian remained silent, trying to absorb what she was saying. He had always prided himself on his self-control, his ability to manage his emotions, especially in the high-stakes environment of space exploration. But now, he wondered if that control was limiting him, holding him back from something greater. I don't know if I can just let go like that, Julian admitted, his voice uncertain. Humans are taught to control their emotions, to keep them in check. It's part of what makes us, well, human. Ishara smiled gently. Perhaps that's true, but it also keeps you from fully realizing your potential. I can help you, Julian. I can show you how to unlock that energy, how to let it flow freely. But you must trust me. You must let go of your fear. Julian looked into her eyes and saw sincerity, a genuine desire to help. But he also saw something deeper, almost primal, a connection that went beyond words, beyond thoughts. It was as if she was offering him a glimpse into a world he had never imagined, a world where physical and spiritual boundaries were blurred. How do we start? Julian asked, his voice barely a whisper. Ishara's smile widened, and she took his hand in hers. Close your eyes, Julian. Breathe deeply. Feel the air around you, the energy of this world. Let it flow into you, through you. Julian did as she instructed, closing his eyes and focusing on his breathing. The air around him seemed to pulse with life, with energy. He could feel the warmth of Ishara's hand in his, the the steady rhythm of his heartbeat and the gentle breeze that caressed his skin. But as he concentrated, he began to feel something else, a pulse of energy deep within him, faint at first but growing stronger with each breath. "That's it," Ishara's voice whispered in his mind. "Don't fight it. Let it flow." Julian felt the energy rising within him like a wave, building in strength. It was exhilarating, yet terrifying. He could feel it rushing through his veins, filling him with a power he had never known. His senses sharpened, his awareness expanded, and for a brief moment he felt as if he could touch the very fabric of the universe. But with that power came a flood of emotions, joy, fear, desire, anger, all swirling inside him, threatening to overwhelm him. The connection between him and Ishara grew stronger, their energies intertwining, becoming one. "It's too much," Julian gasped, struggling to keep control. "I can't." "Don't fight it," Ishara urged, her voice soothing. "Let it flow. Trust me." Julian tried to relax, to let go of his fear, but the intensity was overwhelming. The energy built to a peak and then, suddenly, it exploded outward in a burst of light and heat, leaving him gasping for breath. When he opened his eyes, the world around him had changed. Colors were brighter, sounds sharper, and he could feel the pulse of life all around him. The trees, the water, even the air. He could feel Ishara's presence beside him, not just physically, but as a part of his very being. What just happened?" Julian asked, his voice trembling with awe and fear. Ishara looked at Julian with pride and satisfaction. "You've taken the first step, Julian. You've awakened the energy inside you, and now you can start to understand what it means to be truly connected to the universe." Julian stayed quiet, still trying to process the experience. He could feel the energy flowing inside him, full of life, but there was also a new awareness, a connection to the world around him that he had never felt before. It was like a door had opened, and he was standing at the edge of something vast and unknown. But even as he marveled at this new sensation, part of him was scared. He had unlocked something powerful, something he barely understood, and with that power came responsibility, a burden he wasn't sure he was ready to carry. "What does this mean?" Julian asked, his voice uncertain. "What happens now?" Ishara's gaze was calm and steady. "Now we continue. There's much to learn, much to explore. But know this, Julian. This is just the beginning. The power inside you is great, but it needs to be controlled. Together, we can unlock its full potential, but you must embrace the journey, let go of your fears, and trust in the connection we share." Julian nodded, though his mind was still full of questions and doubts. He had taken the first step into a new world, one where the line between the physical and spiritual was blurred, where power and connection were intertwined. But even as he accepted this new reality, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was standing on the edge of something vast and dangerous. As they sat by the lake, with the light of the twin suns fading into twilight, Julian realized that his life had changed forever. His connection with Ishara was growing stronger, pulling him deeper into the mysteries of Zelaya Prime, into a world of power and potential that he could barely understand. Deep down, he knew there was no turning back. The awakening had begun, and it would take him to the very limits of his humanity and beyond. In the days that followed, Julian's life became a blur of intense emotions and new abilities. The connection with Ishara had opened his senses to the world in ways he'd never imagined. He could feel the pulse of Zelaya Prime beneath his feet, the life in every plant and creature, and most surprisingly, the energy flowing through his own body. It was like he had been blind his whole life and was now seeing for the first time. But with this new awareness came a deep sense of responsibility and fear. Julian could feel his humanity slipping away, replaced by something more primal and powerful. Each new step brought him closer to understanding the energy within him, but it also made him feel further from the person he used to be. The crew of the Endeavor noticed the changes in Julian right away. He had become quieter and more thoughtful, and his presence seemed to have a subtle, almost magnetic authority. He spent more time with the Zeans, especially with Ishara, and his crew began to worry that their captain was getting too involved with the alien culture. Dr. Evelyn Grace, the ship's chief scientist and medical officer, was the first to express her concerns. She had been watching Julian change with growing unease. Evelyn felt it was her responsibility to look out for Julian's well-being. "Julian, we need to talk," she said, approaching him as he stood by the lake, watching the water shimmer in the light of the setting suns. Julian turned to her, his expression calm but distant. "What's on your mind, Evelyn?" She hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "You've changed, Julian. Since we got to this planet, you're different. The crew has noticed it too. We're all worried about you." Julian smiled faintly, but his eyes showed sadness. "I know I've changed, Evelyn. It's hard to explain, but the connection I've made with Ishara, it's opened my eyes to things I never knew existed. This energy, it's unlike anything I've ever felt before. But I'm still me." "Are you?" Evelyn asked, her voice soft but firm. "You're spending more time with Ishara and the Zeans than with your own crew. We don't understand what's happening to you, and I'm not sure you do either." Julian sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It's not easy to explain. This planet, these people, they've shown me a side of the universe we never imagined. They see the world so differently. I'm just trying to understand it." Evelyn stepped closer, her concern growing. "Julian, I've been monitoring your vitals. Your body is changing. I don't know how or why, but you're not completely human anymore. Your cells are adapting to something, but I don't know what. I'm afraid that if you keep going down this path, you won't be able to come back." Julian looked at her, feeling the weight of her words. He had sensed the changes in himself, the heightened senses, the increased strength, the ability to control energy, but he hadn't fully realized what it meant. Was he losing himself? Was this new power worth risking his humanity? "I appreciate your concern, Evelyn," Julian said, "but this is something I need to see through. There's so much we don't know about the universe, about ourselves. If this energy can help us understand more, I have to explore it." Evelyn shook her head, frustration mixing with fear. "And what if it destroys you, Julian? What if it turns you into something unrecognizable?" Julian didn't have an answer. The fear was real, but so was the desire to understand and explore this new potential. "I have to believe this is leading somewhere important, Evelyn. I can't just walk away." Before Evelyn could reply, a sudden gust of wind swept through the clearing, and Ishara appeared beside Julian, as serene and powerful as ever. Sensing the tension, she addressed Evelyn with a calm but firm tone. "Dr. Grace, I understand your concerns, but Julian's journey is one he must take. Our connection is not about control. It's about mutual discovery. He is learning about our world, just as we are learning about his." Evelyn's eyes narrowed. "But what is he becoming, Ishara? He's changing, and I'm not sure it's for the better." Ishara looked at Julian, her expression softening. "He is becoming what he was meant to be, a bridge between our worlds. He can unite the knowledge of humanity with the energy of Zoja. But it won't be easy." Julian felt a wave of warmth from Ishara, a reassurance that both comforted and unsettled him. He knew she believed in the potential of their bond, but Evelyn's words had stirred a deep fear inside him. "We've already heard from Earth," Evelyn said, her voice tight with concern. "They're expecting a full report, and they'll want answers about what's happening to you. This isn't just about you, Julian. The entire mission, the future of humanity's exploration of the stars, it's all at stake." Julian looked out over the lake, watching the fading light of the suns reflect off the water. He knew Evelyn was right. This wasn't just about him. It was about something much bigger. But even as he acknowledged the responsibility, he couldn't shake the pull of the unknown, the urge to see where this path would lead. Before he could respond, a deep, resonant sound echoed through the air, vibrating in his bones. Julian's heart skipped a beat. He recognized it as the call of the Zean Council. The leaders of the planet had called for Julian. Ishara's expression became serious. "The Council wants to speak with you, Julian. They've sensed the changes in you, and they are concerned. Evelyn's worry deepened. This could be dangerous, Julian. We don't know what the council is capable of. Julian nodded, feeling determined. I need to go. I can't avoid this. Evelyn reached out, grabbing his arm. Julian, please be careful. Remember who you are. Don't let them take that from you. Julian squeezed her hand reassuringly before turning to Ishara. I'm ready. Ishara nodded, placing a hand on his shoulder. In an instant, the world around them shifted, the landscape blurring as they were transported to the heart of the Zean city. The city was incredible, with buildings that looked like they had grown out of the ground, glowing with beautiful patterns. The streets were filled with Zeans going about their lives, their bodies glowing with the energy that powered everything on the planet. But as Julian and Ishara arrived, the city went silent. The people stared at them, both curious and concerned. The council chamber was a huge, circular room in the center of the city. The walls were covered in carvings telling the history of the Zean people. In the middle of the room sat the council. 5 elder Zeans, larger and more imposing than the others, their skin glowing so brightly it was hard to look at them. Julian felt their eyes on him, as if they were looking deep into his soul. Julian Masters, the central elder spoke, his deep voice filling the room. You have walked a path that few of your kind have ever known. You have touched the energy of our world, and it has started to change you. This is not something we take lightly. Julian stood tall, meeting the elder's gaze. I didn't ask for this, but now that it's begun, I want to understand it. I want to learn what this energy means for me and for my people. The elder nodded, thinking over Julian's words. There is great potential within you, Julian Masters, but also great danger. The energy flowing through you is powerful, but it is not meant for humans. If you cannot control it, it will consume you, and in doing so, could harm all those connected to you. A chill ran down Julian's spine. What must I do? The elder's eyes glowed brighter, and the room seemed to vibrate with energy. You must undergo the trial of integration. It is a test to determine if you can control the power within you, or if it will control you. If you succeed, you will gain knowledge and abilities beyond anything you've known. But if you fail, you will be lost, and the connection between our worlds will be broken. Julian felt the weight of the challenge before him. This trial would not only decide his fate, but also the future of humanity's relationship with the Zeans. I accept the trial, Julian said, his voice steady. The elder nodded in response. The chamber filled with a soft humming sound as the carvings on the walls began to glow with a gentle light. The trial will begin at dawn. Get ready, Julian Masters, for what lies ahead, the elder said. Ishara stepped forward, her expression unreadable. I will guide you through this, Julian, but you must trust me completely. Julian nodded, feeling the seriousness of what was to come. The journey he had started was reaching a crucial point, one that would decide not only his fate, but the future of both worlds. He felt the energy inside him pulsing, as if it were ready for the trial to begin. As the chamber emptied and night fell over Zelaya Prime, Julian couldn't shake the feeling that he was standing on the edge of something vast and unknown. The forbidden knowledge he sought was close, but what would it cost? The dawn would bring answers, but also the biggest challenge of his life, one that could lift him to new heights or destroy him completely. Standing in the silent city, Julian knew that whatever happened next would change everything. When the first light of dawn appeared over Zelaya Prime, the air was thick with anticipation. The trial of integration was an ancient and respected process, a test of will and strength that few had taken. Julian stood at the edge of a sacred clearing deep within the Zean forest, surrounded by tall trees that glowed with an eerie light. Their glowing leaves created shifting patterns of light on the ground, almost hypnotic. Ishara stood beside him, her presence calming the tension in the air. She had spent the night preparing him for what was to come, guiding him through meditations and explaining the importance of the trial. The trial of integration is not just a test of strength, Julian, she had told him, her voice filled with both pride and concern. It's a test of your soul. The energy within you is powerful but wild, untamed. The trial will force you to face that energy, to either master it or be consumed by it. Julian had listened closely, understanding the seriousness of what lay ahead. His journey, which began out of curiosity and a desire to explore, had led him to this moment, a moment where his very humanity would be put to the ultimate test. As the first rays of sunlight filtered through the trees, the Zean Council arrived. Their glowing forms seemed to sync with the rising sun. They formed a circle around Julian and Ishara, their expressions serious and focused. The central elder, who had spoken to Julian the day before, stepped forward, his presence strong and commanding. "Julian Masters, you stand at the edge of a great transformation. The trial of integration is a rite of passage. Few have taken it, and even fewer have completed it. The energy inside you is powerful, but it is not meant for humans. If you succeed, you will become more a bridge between our worlds, capable of using both human and Zean power. But if you fail, you will be lost to us, and the connection between our worlds will be broken." Julian met the elder's gaze, his determination steady. "I understand. I am ready." The elder nodded. With a wave of his hand, the clearing began to change. The ground trembled, and the trees around them grew taller, their branches intertwining to form a canopy that blocked out the light. The air thickened with energy, and Julian's skin tingled. "The trial begins now," the elder announced. "You must confront the energy within you, face your deepest fears, and find the strength to control it. The power inside you, which has been hidden, must be fully controlled before you can be truly integrated." As the elder spoke, the energy around Julian grew stronger, swirling like a storm. He could feel it pushing against him, testing him, trying to find any weakness. Julian closed his eyes and focused on his breathing, using the techniques Ishara had taught him. "Remember, Julian," Ishara's voice whispered in his mind, "you are not alone. I am with you, and so is the energy of this world. Trust in our connection." Julian took a deep breath and opened his eyes. The world around him had changed. He was no longer in the clearing, but in a vast, empty space. Darkness stretched endlessly in every direction, suffocating and heavy. But within that darkness, he could see tiny sparks of light, dancing and flickering, calling to him. He took a step forward, and the void rippled in response. The lights grew brighter, forming a path deeper into the darkness. As Julian followed the path, the sparks of light began to form images, memories from his life. He saw himself as a child playing near his home. He saw his parents, proud as he graduated from the academy. He saw moments of both triumph and loss that shaped who he was. But then, the images darkened and twisted. He saw the faces of those he had lost. Crewmates who had died, friends who had left, and family he had distanced himself from. Their pain and sorrow hit him like a wave, threatening to pull him down. "This is the first test," Ishara's voice echoed in his mind. "You must face your past, your fears and regrets. You must make peace with them, or they will overwhelm you." Julian clenched his fists, struggling against the flood of emotions. The pain was real, the loss intense, but he knew he couldn't let it control him. He had made his choices and accepted their consequences. The energy within him flared, pushing back the darkness. "I am not defined by my past," Julian said aloud, his voice steady. "I am defined by the choices I make." The darkness around him trembled, and the images of his past faded into nothingness. The sparks of light grew brighter, forming a new path that led deeper into the void. As Julian moved forward, the second test appeared. The darkness shifted into monstrous shapes, creatures of shadow and fire with burning eyes. They lunged at him, trying to break through his defenses, but Julian stood firm. He felt the energy inside him building, waiting to be released. He reached out with his mind, calling upon the power Ishara had helped him discover. Energy surged through him, bursting out in waves of light and heat. The shadowy creatures recoiled and disintegrated, but more appeared, each stronger than the last. Julian fought them off, his energy growing with each victory. But he knew he couldn't keep this up forever. The power was strong but wild. If he lost control, it could destroy him. This is the second test. Ishara's voice echoed again. You must control the energy. It is a part of you, but it is not your master. You must be the one in control, or it will destroy you. Julian focused, pulling the energy back into himself, containing it. The power resisted, pushing at the edges of his mind, trying to break free, but he held firm. I am in control, Julian whispered, his voice filled with determination. This power is mine to command, not the other way around. The energy settled inside him, no longer wild and chaotic, but calm and steady. The shadowy creatures vanished, leaving him alone in the void once again. As he took another step forward, the void began to shift. The darkness gave way to light, and he could see the clearing ahead with the Zean Council waiting for him, their forms glowing with approval. But before he could reach them, the final test appeared. The light twisted and formed into a figure, a mirror image of himself. This version of Julian was different, though. His eyes burned with the same energy that Julian had just learned to control, but there was no humanity left in them. You think you've won? The doppelganger sneered, his voice cold. You think you can control this power? It will consume you, just like it consumed me. Julian stared at the figure, his heart pounding. This was a final test. The darkest part of himself, the part that had been tempted by the power and lost sight of who he truly was. I am not you, Julian said firmly. I am not defined by this power. I am more than that.